particularly galling for Nicholas Simon to remain silent since his partner's been smoking pot for years on a regular basis. It's hard to believe Nicholas doesn't absorb the benefit of that secondhand smoke on a frequent basis. So if you could put a sign out on your body and carry it on proudly in front of either their offices on any given weekend, boy, I would really appreciate that. People need to be reminded that I am leader and president of a BC political party that fielded a full slate of 79 candidates in 2001 and got 3.5% of the vote, 54,000 votes, as well as being politically very active since then. So Nicholas, the NDP MLA, and whoever your Conservative MP is, likely a Christian fundamentalist. So remind the MP of Genesis 1:11. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that yields seed," and it was so. Or perhaps remind him of Genesis 1:12. And the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seeds according to its kind, and God saw that it was good. And then perhaps Genesis 1:29, and God said, "See, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth. To you it shall be for food." And then finally, Genesis 1:31, then God saw everything he had made, and indeed it was very good. As the world's foremost seed distributor, I think it's obvious I am doing God's work and was doing God's work until government, a parliament of men, cast my work asunder, as it were. Anyway, whatever you could do in that regard to get the message out in front of your members of parliament or MLA's office, I'd be appreciative. The books you sent me about POWs and the world wars, if you get a chance to resend any softcover ones, I'd like that. If you listen to my Remembrance Day podcast, you'll know my dad was in World War II, and I grew up reading dozens and dozens of paperbacks on World War II. My favorite POW movies were Stalag 17, made in 1953 by Billy Wilder, and King Rat, a movie by David Lean, I think, from a book by James Clavell, which I haven't read but mentioned earlier, and it stars George Segal. It's a terrific movie made in 1965. Sometimes my time in jail here reminds me a little tiny bit of his ordeal, scaring for food and saving it and trading it and trying to live best by your wits. One of the first books I read when I was about 8 or 9 years old was a book called The Wooden Horse, about escaping a German POW camp by tunneling. POW stories and even straight military stories of World War I and World War II defy belief. What people had to endure. On November 11th, I watched a History Channel show about Passchendaele, the underground war, about the regiment of British and Canadian armies responsible for building massive tunnels deep beneath the earth to accommodate thousands of soldiers below the flat, muddy battlefields. It was staggering. I've read Tommy Chong's book about his time in jail. It's a very good book, really. I received a copy before yours arrived, so other inmates are reading the copy you sent to me of the I Chong. Tommy and I spoke a number of times about epiphanies and self-discovery and reflection while he was in jail and while I was in jail in 2005. And Tommy continues to be a good friend, often wearing a Free Marc t-shirt in his public appearances. His documentary, a.k.a. Tommy Chong, is a greatly underestimated movie that is on DVD and shown on television occasionally, but it's really, really very, very good and quite subversive, and I recommend it to everybody. An inmate here makes native art cards. I have enclosed one as a good luck talisman for the future production of your movies, which have West Coast native themes in them. The artwork of the card is all by hand, and I think it's very good. I give the artist coffee and some food from the vending machine, plus make him the occasional tuna salad sandwich, which is my known specialty here in jail, and he gives me his finished artwork, which he does on cards, envelopes, and stationery. As to your suggestion to come up with a marijuana-themed board game, well, you know what? We did an issue of Cannabis Culture that had 2 cannabis board games included, issue number 55. And the main game was called the Toker's Bowl game. It's a great game, and you can buy the laminated version for just $10, or just buy issue number 55 for the bargain price of $2 and pluck the game right out of the middle. It's great. It comes detachable and is all ready to go. I don't tend to find reading about cannabis that interesting in jail, though, talking about books about cannabis. I found the noble effort by Tavert, Armentino, and Fox called Marijuana is Safer hard to plow through. Dry facts and correct theory are a diet of dry toast in jail, I found. To move my brain and spirit here in jail, I need spiritually meaty stuff of flesh and blood, not statistics and facts. Plus, I tend to write a fair bit about cannabis myself, so maybe I'm just not that interested in reading about that. If you are planning to write a novel about a guerrilla gardener, as you said, then watch the Brown Dirt Warrior videos on YouTube. He has a video called Prohibition, and it's a video of 10 years of guerrilla gardening with travails of drought, floods, rip-offs, government helicopters, and maybe just 3 successful harvests in 10 years. It's pretty amazing. It's out on DVD as Prohibition, and actually he's got an interactive how-to DVD coming out in a few weeks that the CannabisCulture.com store will have online, as well as at the CCHQ at 307 West Hastings Street. In just a few weeks, it's going to be out. Interviewing Brown Dirt Warrior and watching his videos will keep your book factually and technically accurate. The enemies of a successful outdoor guerrilla harvest are many. If you are into graphic novels, I read 2 here in jail that were just outstanding. Both were written by a fellow named Alan Moore. One was called Watchmen. It is also a great movie, but it is an incredible read. I have read it twice now. The other is a 5-volume, and it was originally in 35 comic book issues, graphic novel, staggering in its philosophy, illustration, and story called Promethea. It is the best thing I have ever read in the graphic novel format. Now I want to read any and all graphic novels by Alan Moore. He is just terrific. My friend Dana Larson is having his illustrated novel, Harry Pothead and the Marijuana Stone, made into a 12-part graphic novel. It's nearing completion and will be published next year. I've seen the artwork, and it's very good. I hope you were able to get your Samurai Warrior published once the artwork is completed. I loved Frank Miller's artwork from the 1980s and 1990s Batman, so if yours is similar to that, it's bound to be spectacular. I haven't seen much from Frank Miller since those days, though. I really hope you're able to publish it, because graphic novels are really quite a wonderful medium. Thanks for writing your senator about voting against Bill C-15. Mr. Rompke's letter doesn't reveal much about the way he'll vote, but his line where he says, "I will be discussing this issue with my colleagues, and rest assured that I will bear in mind the points you have raised in your correspondence," are very positive things to get back. Thank you very much for sending a letter to him about Bill C-15. Good on you for doing that, because perhaps it will make a difference and save thousands of people from jail. So I leave this with you, my friend, and I hope you write me soon. Peace and pot, Marc Emery. P.S. Be sure to listen to my Remembrance Day podcast at www.cannabisculture.com, because I think it gives you good insight into how I'm going to write my memoirs and write my podcast in the future.